Hello all. Some people are dreading Christmas gatherings. We all know last 3 or 4 years has been very challenging for many people, especially those that have decided to question a lot of things. What are we going to do today? I'm here with my good friend David Wetton, who's been involved in many of the things that I've also been involved in the last few years. And David's kindly accepted to be a guinea pig, as it were, just to show you a simple exercise that can take the edge off the tension that you feel around attending those gatherings. Okay, hello, David.
Hi, I'm certainly ready for Christmas, David. As you can see, the tints. Look, I've got my very best Christmas jumper, and here in Bourneville, Birmingham, England, I've got the biggest bar of Cadbury's chocolate you've ever seen, 850 grams. So you could say I'm really ready for Christmas. There's a few things I want to go through with you first, David.
Right, okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to demo an exercise that we know can take the edge off the tension and the dread that you feel about having these gatherings. That in itself can really enable you to have a better conversation with people. It's the first thing. When we teach in the Reaching People workshops and courses, if you have lots of stored up emotions when you're talking to someone, it really is almost impossible to talk to them. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to demo this with David. I'm going to talk him through the steps. Then we're going to show you a couple of slides on how they work so you can do it yourself. And yeah, this video really is so you can really have the power to affect how those gatherings, to significantly improve your chances of having a good time at these gatherings. David.
And I just wanted to say something actually, David, just as an intro, because you know I'm trained as a minister, an interfaith minister. I remember one of our trainers, or our mentors, I should say, saying that when you go to certain events, and Christmas is one of those, they said if you get triggered, because probably people use the word triggered, and there's normally an emotional charge to it. And what they said is, if there's an emotional charge there for you, it suggests there's something for you to look at in a very compassionate way. Because quite often, and I use my own instances, when I felt triggered and charged, I'm like, it's their fault. Why are they here again? What are they doing? So I'm really interested to find out how that can be shifted, Dave.
Well, I think that's a really important point. Emotions are a message, and the other person may be wrong, but there's still a message that we have to process in order to be able to communicate with that person better. So I think that's a really good point. What I'd like you to do, first step, David, I'd like you to either make a picture in your mind or to choose someone that you have a challenge communicating with, particularly, wherever it is. Just choose one person, okay? What I want you to do is make a picture of them in your mind or hear them speak to you. So we'll let you want the trigger, okay? Okay, you got that? As you do, I want you to connect to how you feel. And by that, I mean, just go inside and become aware of the feelings and emotions you have in your body.
You want me to share those? Yeah. Share what those emotions feel like?
Not at all at the moment. And this is what's beautiful about this. It's really guiding you in an inside journey. What I want you to do is just, as you connect to those feelings, I want you just to observe them for a minute. You're not going to try and push them away, do anything. All you're doing is observing, noticing. So you can just notice those feelings. Okay.
I'm drawn to close my eyes, just to kind of concentrate on those feelings, David.
Whatever you do. And I'm just going to leave you for 30 seconds just to observe those feelings. Okay. The only thing I want you to tell me is where they are.
For me, they're in the gut. So there's like a gut churning, and it feels uncomfortable. It feels like my gut is knotted, actually.
Right. What I want you to do is I want you to tell me on a scale of 1 to 10 how intense they are.
I'm getting an 8 in there.
Okay. So what I want you to do now is just sit with that for a minute.
I'm finding myself, David, actually just taking deeper breaths at this moment. I don't know if that's what you find or not.
Yeah, it's a natural process because your body will, once it notices something, it starts to address it. I want
And
you
it
to
feels like, almost feels like, David, inside, I'm just slowing down a little bit.
okay, that's perfect. What I want you to do is ask yourself this question. Would you like to hold on to this feeling for 1 minute or 20 years? Okay, see the
1
physical,
minute, please.
see the physical change that happens? It's a very powerful question. What I want you to ask yourself now, David, is could I let some of this go now?
You know what? I'm kind of thinking that maybe I could, what if I could? So what if I could? That seems an easier step than I'm going to let go of it now. But hey, I'm just curious, what if I could let go of it? So I'm feeling some curiosity here.
Okay, so what I want you to do now, and I want you to just take a big breath in. And for the viewers and listeners, what we've done there is we've gone through the 8 steps, and all I'm going to do is circle back to the beginning. Okay, so David, I now want you to make a picture or listen to this person again, the same one that you started with. Okay, I want you to connect to your feelings.
Yeah.
Okay, and I just want you to observe them for a minute. Hey, where do you feel these?
It's interesting, actually. I've been speaking about how there's been a softening, but it's still in the gut, but it's kind of moved a little bit. And what it is, it feels a little bit gentler.
Right. Yep.
So,
And this is what you'll see. You'll see it will often move. Sometimes it will change intensity, it will change sensation, but generally
yeah.
we always see it lessen. If it does
And I
increase,
tell you what's happening now as well is that I'm also getting a sense of there's a movement where it feels like it's moving from me pushing it out there to say, well, you're doing this, or that always happens, or it's your fault, to something around just moving inward for me, just a curiosity around, okay, what's happening here for me? So I can feel that number you said earlier is starting to drop. Does that make sense? So I'm turning
yes.
more in towards myself.
Yeah, well
Feels
this is
quite empowering, actually, David.
this is the thing. You'll notice that all the emotions exist in you.
Yeah.
So you can't, like, literally we get this thing where they think they're outside of us, but they're inside of us. So if you were now, as you tune into that feeling, David, how would you rate it? 1 to 10?
It's dropped to a 5 now. A
Okay.
5.
And I give you that option again. Would you like to hold on for 1 minute or 20 years?
I'm going for 1 minute again,
Okay.
please.
Okay. So as you notice those feelings, could ask yourself this question, David, could I let some of this go now?
Yes, I can. And actually, there's some emotion coming up for me for something about releasing me. And actually, strangely, it's almost like there's a chink. I like that word. There's a chink of compassion coming in for the other person, which I just didn't expect, David, when we started this.
Yeah, well, what happens is it's a bit like it's a bit like when you're in a darkened room and then a hole comes in the curtain.
Yeah. And
Okay.
there's something about me that actually it's not a kind of ego thing. It's just, but it feels gentler, it feels easier, and it's just a sense of actually that I'm stepping more into myself, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, and this is what will happen. And you can't really predict. This is why the position I take is if I have a strong emotion, process it.
Mhm.
That's it. Because the emotion's a message, and by processing it, you get to hear the message. So what I'd like to do, just to keep this
Can
nice
I
and
just say something there, actually, Dave?
short.
Because I remember, as you know, I like researching, reading, exploring, and I remember there's a guy, David Hawkins, that actually looks at this sort of thing, and he says actually, if you really truly connecting and holding emotion. You can only actually hold it, he says. Incredible. You talked about a minute. You can only hold it for 45 seconds, says,
Yeah.
before it starts to move and shift. And I had a sense of that today.
Yeah, well, that's about why this is going internal. You're literally just connecting to
Yeah.
yourself. All you're doing is honoring yourself. And you'll notice really all we're doing is we're just taken a moment, how do I feel? Yeah, I've not asked you anything about the person or the subject or any, have I? I've not asked you any content.
No.
All I've asked you
No.
to do is to connect with how you feel. Okay. And of course, what will happen is you'll get more clarity, and then you'll be able to talk to that person without as many triggers. Okay. And if you process all the triggers, you'll find that because you can't
Well,
connect.
you just froze up there, David.
Okay. Yeah, it's very hard to connect with the triggers blocking us. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is just one final round. And of course, our goal is obviously to get to 0, but for the viewers, we're really just demoing it so they can then use this recording to, they can watch it as many times as they want. What we're also going to post in the link is a beautiful video from Howard Waskin, which is about 15 minutes long, which goes through a similar thing, but really any blocks you have with anyone, it could be work, relationship, you know, family, anything. So David, can I ask you just to make a picture or listen to that person again, the same one that you started with, and just connect to your feelings. And just observe. What we mean by observe is no pressure. You're just noticing, no judgment, just looking at, this is how I feel, just is as it is. And where do you feel it?
As I said, there's this tiny piece now in the gut. There's a feeling of more peace and calm, and it's kind of on that scale. It's kind of like a 1 or a 2 now.
Okay, excellent.
So there's not the anxiety that's there about the, you know, when I first started, there's a trigger. There's an emotional charge that was there for me.
Yeah.
Now, and I keep taking a breath in and going, actually, no, this feels, it's really empowering to feel this.
Yeah. And what's really powerful about this is to know that we don't want to do this. Okay. Because we want to move away from things that don't make us feel good. But if you were to set some time aside and just say, right, in that time, I'm going to do this work, then you could effectively clear up a lot of your relationships and just have a more peace. And we all do this. I'm guilty of this. I chose, before making this video, I chose someone, I wrote out the script, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to demo it through. And then I realized, actually, I need to talk to that person. I messaged them and they messaged me back, and we're going for a coffee later to catch up, you know. And that's where you have, the thing is, you have the choice, and that's what we want. You have, when you have the choice, you have power. You can choose to stay angry at that person if you wish. That's your choice. That's free will. But if you want to connect to that person, it's sensible just to process the emotions. So you gave me the answer that's now 1 or 2.
I think I was going to say, actually, David, where I felt anxious and almost frightened is I felt scared to connect into that person, in a sense of, am I going to be absolutely overwhelmed by this emotional trigger I have, or this emotional charge I carry when I see this person? But I think the surprise was that when I connected into that, yes, I felt it, and I felt it in the stomach, but it didn't totally overwhelm me. Because we were speaking earlier about how the brain can set up patterns, and I'm just reflecting that perhaps my brain is like, don't go there, it'll be not be nice, won't be good. But when I did go there with your support, there's a sense of, okay, it's here. But and now as I move through, there's a sense of almost, why didn't I do this before? I could have had this ongoing for 20 years.
That's such an important point, because there's nothing to fear but fear itself. The fear of the emotions are usually much stronger than the emotions. And some of them, for some of the people watching this, will be very strong. I've been in tears before using this. But there's something, when you create the right space, then you'll find that people can really handle it. And that's what I do a lot now in the sessions with clients, is we really create a nice space where they feel comfortable, they're not judged, any of this stuff, and then they can really express themselves. And that's one of the things. And if you do have very strong emotions that you know are there, and you do have a buddy that's in agreement with you on many things that you can really trust, do this together and hold the space for each other.
And maybe that's that you just put for me an important insight, that when I'm in this emotionally charged state, I can be judging the other, I can be judging myself. So what I noticed in this practice that you just did, that without me intentionally doing it. So there's nothing about, right, I'll make this happen. I move from judging to compassion for myself and the other.
Yeah.
Very different emotional energy.
Completely different.
You know, the judging feels to me I'm giving my power away. I can't change that person, but I'm saying they're to blame. This one is giving me my power back. And it's like, as you said, I can choose. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, David. Oh, and just really the last question on that. Could you let the rest of it go? And you can just sit with that question. So what we're going to do now, just to keep this nice and short, we're just going to show you through the script in steps, so it's clear. So effectively, you've got this. Step one, make a picture or listen to the person's voice. Sometimes it might even be a feeling, but really you're looking for the test, the trigger. Connect to the feelings. At this point, you're going to get sometimes an automatic shift just doing that. If it's, you know, if it becomes too overwhelming, just say to yourself, I'm just going to let a little in. Observe the feeling for a minute, just really sit with it. And that's really important what Dave mentioned. There's not to judge, just really take your focus inside. You're going to feel the temptation to go off into the story. That's what the brain does. But just when you feel yourself doing that, just turn back to you. This is for you to feel what you're feeling. Ask yourself where you feel it. That will, again, take you there. Rate it on a 1 to 10. And then this question is really important because one of the biggest obstacles is going to be us wanting to hang on to, well, they deserve, I should be angry at them. And maybe, yeah, that's valid. But hey, they might be out dancing. So the anger's inside you. Yeah. So that's really important to resolve that. And that will be, something, there will be a resistance to that. But asking this question, would you like to hold for 1 minute or 20 years, can really help release that. And you'll notice when I asked you that each time, David, you laughed.
I did laugh because of the question, really. And of course,
really,
that laughter, I felt, released something as well.
Exactly. That's why you laugh, because it's literally releasing the body. Number 7 is really a really powerful question, comes from the Sedona method. Could I let some of this, and I've put some of this because it just allows it to soften. Could I let some of this go now? And then big breath, and then just repeat until 0. And you may find yourself going around for different emotions, but you'll notice each time you picture that person, you will mostly get a subtle lightening, which you mentioned is what happens, David. And the key points, really, to summarize, this is a script to take the edge off the tension. That's what we put, just take the edge off. You want to go deeper into this, and there's many resources that you can do that. The Sedona method, EFT, the Lefko method, release, David Hawkins. There's so many different ones, and so many of them are very good, and which one works for you is the one that you want to choose. We can be divided over ideas, and both sides can have good intentions. So both sides in a conversation, yes, there are people out there that don't have good intentions, and they manage to convince a lot of people of one thing or the other. But the problem is coming where we're clashed over the ideas. So if it's your brother or sister or mother or father, it can be divided over ideas. Both sides can have good intentions. So if it's your father or your sister or your cousin, they've probably got good intentions at the core. They probably care about you. The idea might be incorrect. Yeah, so we've got to really connect to the person. There are people out there with bad intentions, but this is not, it's outside of the scope of this video. The most significant obstacle will be our defensiveness, not wanting to do it. I want to hang on to these emotions, and that's your choice. But, hopefully we've demonstrated that there's such a profound benefit from releasing them. At least give it a go and see how you feel. And really, for me, the most significant way to stick 2 things up to anyone that's not got good intentions is for you to release your emotions. We get so controlled by our emotions when we buy things that we don't really want. It's because we're emotionally attached to that. If we get angry, all of these things. So emotions are the elephant in the room. So hopefully this video will be useful for you. You can go round and round. We're going to post some other things in the link. I'm going to stop sharing now. I want to thank my good friend David for always his openness. I mean, I rang David up yesterday. I thought, well, okay, I want to make this video. I know David's always an open book about these things. So thank you, David. And any questions, feel free to email us. The details will be in the comments, the content section below. Thank you, and have a wonderful Christmas wherever you are, whatever your beliefs. If you're part of the human race, if you're a man or a woman, I'm sure.
Absolutely, David. I've got my stocking here for Santa.
Brilliant.
My only emotional tension now is this stocking big enough? Because I've been very good, David. So Santa should be feeling this.
The big kid in everyone. Thank you all. You know, I think when we get the power back, we can actually start to make a positive change. So thank you all.